So welcome everybody to today's virtual Hyperledger meetup. We are speaking about the Hyperledger Bevel 1.0 release and the road ahead. We have two of the Bevel maintainers with us today, Sownak Roy and Suvajit Sarkar. So I will hand it off to them and they will share with you about the release.
Thanks, David. Um, Welcome everyone to the virtual meetup. As David just said, and we all know here, we are very much excited that we have kind of come up with a very important milestone and a pivotal moment in our whole open source journey. We are coming up with the Hyperledger Bevel release 1.0. Before we go into the topic, let's just introduce the speakers. I'll let Shaunak first introduce himself. Shaunak, over to you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Yes, so that's me, Sownak Roy. If you have interacted with me on Discord, yeah, I'm available there at Sownak. 17, 18 years of experience in engineering, currently for the past 7, 8 years, mainly focusing on this distributed systems and blockchain and also the product owner and or one of the original creators of Hyperledger Bevel. Yeah, and that's my experience currently working for Accenture and more also like in the whole open source domain. And yeah, and Suvajit.
Yep, thanks, Shaunak. Myself, Suvajit Sarkar. I have around 10 years of experience in technology management areas. Currently working at Accenture. I'm maintainer of Hyperledger Bevel, particularly in the areas of development and architecture. Yep, you can find me on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. My IDs are given here. Now, with further ado, let me move to the agenda. So, what we will cover, I mean, this session is for 1 hour. We'll try to kind of divide each into 15 minutes quickly, and then finally, maybe we'll keep it open for any questions. I mean, you can feel free to ask questions on the chat, or maybe you can just pause us and then ask questions as well. So we'll just kind of do a quick introduction of what Hyperledger Bevel is, and then we'll directly jump to the release 1.0 features, and then we'll talk about the future features, releases, and other activities that are going to come up. And with that, let me move to the first slide, which is the first topic, which is introduction to Hyperledger Bevel. I know most of you must have seen this. I mean, whoever is kind of being with us on different calls have seen this slide before, but it becomes very important for us because it kind of keeps us aligned with our basic principles and our vision, basically. So, I mean, just to kind of give an overview of what Hyperledger Bevel is for people who are joining for the first time. So, Hyperledger Bevel is a automation tool that allows you to rapidly and consistently deploy production-ready DLT platforms. So, these production-ready DLT platforms that currently Bevel supports are basically 7 of them. We support Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Besu, Hyperledger Indy, Quorum, Substrate, R3 Corda Open Source, and R3 Corda Enterprise. Now, the idea of a bevel is basically a tool, as I said, that would allow any operator or a developer to quickly set up a secure and a scalable blockchain or a DLT network. And then basically it kind of, as I said, it's very much done in a very kind of rapid way. So it kind of cuts your development time from matter of weeks to matter of hours, thus letting you focus on your basic use cases and application design, whatever you want to do, build on top of your blockchain network. Now, whenever I have any questions about Bevel, as in like whenever I try to add new features or whenever I have some idea that can kind of be part of Bevel, I always refer to our guiding principles because that kind of becomes a key and important area that helps us or lets us keep Hyperledger Bevel in a way that allows, as I said, it's a kind of production ready DLT solution. So some of these basic principles that help us to achieve that is the reference architecture. Basically, this is the whole Hyperledger Bevel conforms to the reference architecture or DLT architecture 2.0 that is kind of was open sourced by Accenture, I think almost a couple of years back, and then it keeps upgrading. But basically, it consists set of various principles, patterns, components, which in turn has various runtime architecture and development architecture that kind of takes care of your security, your DevOps services, and various integration services layers. The other guiding principles are we design or we kind of have our architecture created in such a way that it is infrastructure independent. So if you have used Bevel, know that it kind of supports any cloud platform that you want to use, may it be any common cloud providers that you have, given that it kind of supports Kubernetes. So any cloud provider on-prem or cloud, whether if it supports Kubernetes, you can use Bevel to deploy your DLT network of choice. Modular design, all of our components are kind of modular to plug, ready to be plugged and played, and you can kind of use one without the need of other. When we talk about our future releases or the current release, you'll get an idea of how we are kind of trying to create the design into a more modular way. This is only possible because from the beginning itself, we had designed Bevel in such a way that every component is basically modular in principle. Design for security. So Bevel till now, I mean, in a production setup, we never keep our credentials saved in or stored in your local system or environment or your deployment machine. Everything is kind of put in securely into HashiCorp Vault, which is our present key vault that we support. In future, as I said, everything is modular in design. These key vaults can be replaced with any other, let's say, cloud managed vaults as such. Finally, that we use in our tools are open sourced, and the product itself is Apache 2 licensed with Hyperledger. Moving on, directly jumping to the key highlights of release 1.0. So before I do that, do we have any questions on the chat or do we move ahead?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So key highlights of the release. I will also share a link to our release release changelog. It's in draft position right now, but yeah, I mean you'll get a more detailed idea of what are the new things or new changes that you'd see with the release 1.0.0. But yeah, some of the key features which you see in the screen are support for Hyperledger Fabric 2.5. So the 1.0 brings up the support, or it allows you to deploy 2.5 along with the older 2.2.x version, and also along with 2.5 we are currently we have almost completed all the operations that are there, as in the common ones, the for example addition of peers, addition of orderers, and addition of order organizations. Those kind of operations are also supported with version 2.5. This also comes with the option of deploying chain code as an external service, also upgrading chain code versions. The other important thing that we have been working on is the ability to deploy your DLT networks using GitHub Actions work. So when we talk to different people on the Discord channel, and most of the issues that we see people are facing are related to some of the prerequisites, or let's say the versions of the Ansible or components which are required in the basically the developer machine from which you're gonna run the Bevel scripts. So with the ability, or with this GitHub Actions workflow, it kind of solves that problem. You no longer need to kind of create your own environment to run the scripts. You can use the GitHub Actions directly and trigger any deployment, or any deployment, network deployment of your choice. The other important thing, which would be a much focus item for the future releases, is the standalone Helm chart. So for this release, we have started with Hyperledger Besu. So now with this, you can deploy Hyperledger Besu without using Ansible at all. You can just use Helm commands to deploy Besu network. Um, and uh, and also we have seen that many people just want to deploy a DLT network for a quick test without kind of without caring about the various proxies or indices, or let's say the key vault, which is HashiCorp for now. So for Besu, we have also added the ability to deploy network without proxy or without vault. The other important thing, key thing, is the documentation change. So we have completely restructured and redesigned our documentation, which would increase readability. It has new look and feel altogether. It also focuses on having the documentation designed around user perspective or user persona, or it basically whenever some users come, they have that one set of mindset. For example, they want to, let's say, deploy a particular network, and they need a particular flow from where they can get the proper things that are required for the deployment. So I mean, it's structured in such a way that it becomes much easier for anyone to follow our guide and follow through all the steps from configuration to deployment to initial testing. So we'll keep continuing to improve our documentation. But yeah, it's majorly being redesigned with a new look and feel. I will also share a link to, or you can just do a read the docs Bevel search. It's been updated, so you can have a look at the recent redesigned documentation. The final important key release aspect is the Hyperledger Cacti connectors. So now I think couple of our platforms, which are, I think, Besu, Quorum, and Fabric as well, have been I mean have been I mean, we have added a feature that would allow these platforms to also deploy the cacti connector along with the node, which would kind of allow you to use cacti connectors for these networks, allowing interoperable communication between the various DLT ledgers. Right. We'll move to the next slide, which is talks about future release features. Sownak, off to you for this.
Yep. So before that, I would like to, Suvajit, if you can just walk us through the documentation, the new documentation link. Yeah.
Okay. So let me first share the link, and then
Yeah, I have shared the link. So if you
okay,
just screen share
sure.
the browser and just brief on the main changes. Of course, we have used the theme that was designed under the Hyperledger mentorship project for the redesigning of the documentation. Hopefully, all Hyperledger projects will be using the same theme. So which is very good. We used to MK docs, and the flow of the documentation, in the sense the content is also from how it was suggested by that mentorship.
Okay. So let me quickly open that.
Yeah, it's your third
Yep. Do you
tab.
guys?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already there.
Yeah, so if you scroll flow through, so we have added the introduction. It is the same thing, but the major changes are if you go to concepts, Suvajit, we have introduced, we have added the sequence diagram because it seems people were a little bit confused on how it actually works. So hopefully this diagram will allow you to understand how the sequence works, and of course if one of the things in the sequence doesn't work, then rest of the following things will not work. Then we have all the concepts that the major concepts that we use: Ansible, GitOps, Helm, Kubernetes, and Vault. These are the major concepts that we use. So if someone is using Bevel, if they already know these things, it is helpful. If they, I mean, some basic understanding of each of these things are necessary. Otherwise, of course, you will have much more problem in using Bevel or deploying the network. Then if you go to getting started, so that's where I've now with this theme, and it allows us to add this kind of tips and then warnings and important messages in a very colorful way. So you can see all the important parts highlighted. There is the tutorials, I think is next, which we have. I think there is like a still ongoing thing that we have to do, that we'll have to sort some of the guides into tutorials because now we have
Right.
less tutorials and a lot of guides. So we'll maybe do some kind of filtering. Yeah, so if you go to guides, so this is where basically all the operational guides are there, like what for each of the separate different platforms like Corda and Fabric and um, mm, uh, mainly Corda and Fabric because they are the most common used. And then we have Besu and all as well. Yep. And then going to the references, if you go to the references, so we do have the architecture, sorry, some of the commands, how to troubleshoot, what is the roadmap, which is the important part. And yeah, so so that kind of brings us to to the roadmap. I see there is a question: what is the difference between Bevel and Firefly? Or there is overlap between both projects. Okay, Bevel and Firefly are really totally different. Firefly is kind of, I think, similar. I'd rather say it's similar to Cacti because it works on the interoperability zone. Bevel is a deployment accelerator tool. It's a deployment framework. So you'll most likely use Bevel to deploy Firefly for your production systems. So that's the difference. Yeah. So going back to the PowerPoint for our future things, or for the road ahead, basically the second part of this discussion, we will mainly, as I've kind of alluded to in this one, that of course we'll keep on continuing and improving our documentation. That is how, I mean, any open source product works. There is no end to documentation because with every new things there will be new updates needed for the documentation part. So yeah, so if we go to the next slide, Suvajit. Suvajit, are you? Maybe. Okay, I think we are stuck. Suvajit, maybe. Okay.
I think I did drop. Sorry, I'm back.
It's fine. I've shared now. So, so this is yeah. So basically, for future releases, we of course planning to start supporting Corda 5. That will be a new platform because there is a major difference between Corda 4 and Corda 5. So it will be a separate platform. That so with this release we have changed all the all our Helm charts is available under as Helm repo. So you can just go do like Helm repo add hyperledger.github.com/bevel, and then you will get all the Helm charts that is published under our Helm repo, Bevel Helm repo. So the next kind of future change would be to use those directly as the GitHub source, or all our update our documentations to directly use those Helm charts, right, when you doing Helm install from the Helm repo directly. Then of course Grafana Prometheus integrations. I think they have been partly done for Besu, but we'll try to put it or extend it for the other platforms. Deployments with only Helm, making Ansible optional. Yeah, so that's more or less the more major target that we want to achieve for that that using only Helm or without using Ansible. So our the theory or kind of the principle, I would say, that we try to follow, will be trying to follow, is that if you want short and simple, like if you want a dev network, or if you want uh, test network, small test network to quickly do things, to test your application or deploy your smart contract, then use Helm. Using Helm install say 4 or 5 commands, it will run deploy your network, which will be more or less production, but not exactly a production worthy solution. But then when if you want to use more complex network, more production worthy, or better production worthy solutions, which includes a vault, which will include GitOps, so that you have automated updates in your cluster. So that's when you will use Ansible. And also when you want, for example, like you have multiple, you have to create say 10 organizations, or 5 organizations or 50 organizations, then just using Helm Helm install will not work, because you have to run these Helm installs say 50 times for each organization, which is not ideal. That's when you'll use Ansible. So, but yeah, we're making it more towards that. With this release, Hyperledger Besu is like that. So we have a very simple 5-6 step deployment, or even less, I think, deployment for Hyperledger Besu, which is actually taken from the Quorum Kubernetes charts that is published or maintained by Consensus, but we have integrated Vault with it and GitOps with it via the Ansible. Main change is Vault, so you can use the Vault HashiCorp Vault, and your secrets are always stored, even if your Kubernetes cluster is say destroyed. The additional on the similar lines, what we'll be doing there is introduce with Besu. Starting with Besu itself, you can now deploy uh, without Vault, so you don't need Vault, and also without using GitOps, so you don't have to use GitOps. That's you just deploy using Helm install. And so that means you will not have to wait for, we have so many questions saying this, my job is not working, that job is not working, and I cannot see it, doesn't progress. So that things will be minimized. The other, so that's there already done for Besu. We'll of course do the rest in the next few months. And we also have the option, like there is a key called cloud native services now in one of the value files. So that means that it is false for now. We've not used any cloud native services, but if here we have more AWS or Azure experts, they can you can add the code for yourself, in which way you will be able to use the cloud native services, reading the secrets from the AWS Key Vault, for example, or Azure Key Vault, rather than Vault, the HashiCorp Vault that we provide, or Bevel uses. So those yeah, making it incoming. Going back to Suvajit's comment or about our guiding principles on modularity, that's where we are going ahead, and we have seen a lot of interest between in our with our clients as well, and with the users, which I think many of you are here in this call to use the native Kubernetes services, sorry, native secret services, cloud native services, so you can use them. And then the last, of course, is deployment using Kubernetes operator. So part of it is there for Fabric, it is there because you can deploy, you can use operator, the Bevel operator Fabric, which is like a sub project, I would say, for Bevel. But you can use the Bevel automation with that. So again, you don't have to run the Helm, kubectl configure function multiple times if you are, for example, deploying 10 node network. So gradually the same operator would be or that pattern would extend to say Besu and Go Quorum on our Corda as well. So these are the main things that will be working from now on, depending, of course, how on your contributions. I think it will depend, that will drive the how soon we get it or how late we get it. But these are our prioritized versions. Yeah, that's from my side on this one. Any questions? I'm sure there are questions. Okay, there aren't any that I can see.
There are a couple of questions on the YouTube channel. I don't know if y'all have been
Oh.
looking on the chat there. I can copy those over here. Let me do that. And maybe you've already covered this, but I'll just make sure.
Okay. So the first question was compare Helm usage against Bevel operator. Not totally sure of this question. I mean, I'm not sure I understand. But I think it kind of tries to make that what is the difference between Helm and Bevel operator, but there isn't. In that sense, I think the Bevel operator itself internally uses the Helm charts. So we are also going to be doing the same. So the Helm charts that we are creating right now, and we have introduced with Besu, for example, we've introduced like like dependent Helm charts. So in that sense, if you install if you just Helm install chart A, the other dependent charts, for example, which creates the vault authentication, or which adds creates the network parameters, for example, in Corda, that will always automatically be called within that. So you don't have to call like 5 charts to reach at the end state. So you most probably call 2 of them, or the more important ones. That's how we are going to do when we do deployments only with Helm. That's the principle. I'm not sure if I answered that correctly. Is Grafana Prometheus is used for infrastructure monitoring? I think there is a question. So that is dependent on you. So we are going to add Grafana and Prometheus integrations. But it will be only for the DLT network that you are deploying. If you want to add your infrastructure monitoring, the Kubernetes other monitoring as well, that depends on you, because yeah, we are not as we've tried to be infrastructure independent. As that's another second most important, or second, not most important, the second principle that we stand by. If we start adding infrastructure monitoring, then we'll have to do it separately for AWS and Azure and Google and whatever new cloud provider is coming up in the market. So which just defeats the purpose of what Bevel is about. So our Grafana and Prometheus monitoring or integrations will be for the DLT platform themselves, like for Corda or for Fabric or for Besu. For Besu, for example, it's already there. Will other Hyperledger projects in migrate to operator as well interested for dev setups? Yes, so that's the point that I think whoever is has the question on YouTube is a very good question, and that's something that we want to encourage between the community in the community. That yeah, all their other Hyperledger projects should also have their operator set up, and because they are deploying on Kubernetes. When you use operators, it means Kubernetes operators. Then yeah, they should be ideally be under Bevel and should ideally be using the existing Helm charts, because otherwise you will end up recreating the same Helm charts. So that's so hopefully I've answered the question from Ravi, who was asked here directly, I think.
There's one more question by Sushin.
All right, yeah. So the main issue is facing is native Bevel is supported for till 2.2 and Bevel operator has support till 2.5. So yeah, Suvajit, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so if by native Bevel you mean the Bevel project, so then yeah, I mean this release we have come up with 2.5 along with the various operations that we already supported for 2.2. So you have it.
Yeah, so with the current release that there is 1.0, or even if you check the develop branch, you can run till use native Bevel for Fabric 2.5 as well, which is more or less the latest one. I think 3.0 is still in kind of beta testing, right, for Fabric. Yeah, so yep, that's our team here. We do have we do need more maintainers and just contributors, not just maintainers. But we'll keep actively working to make these features available to you. We have so these are the like more or less the long-term goals. So enhance the interoperability with other Hyperledger projects. So in that sense, in any as you have said to other someone asked in I think on YouTube, right, what happens with the other Hyperledger projects when they use operator. So yeah, ideally all the operators should be under Bevel, and there should not be someone who is writing new Helm charts to deploy on Kubernetes. Ideally they should be using our Helm charts, and that's where the interoperability is. Otherwise, again, if someone is writing it, they're doing it again, I mean like reinventing the wheel in that sense. Introduce advanced customization options. So yeah, like I discussed, we are adding. We will be. I mean, our team, my team personally, which is like 4 people, like 5 people. We will not that me. I mean, prioritizing on the AWS or the Azure Key Vault or Google Key Secrets. Uh, that wouldn't be our priority, but this is will make the code or the Helm charts easily customizable for adding those features. Of course, performance optimization, and that is where we are also introducing more better memory and resource utilization, those limits that we have under Kubernetes, and also with Prometheus and Grafana or Prometheus, you will be able to use those metrics and see if something is going wrong, and if your Kubernetes cluster is needs more juice basically. That will be there, and that will drive the performance optimization. Okay, there is a question. Yeah, this is just again for the YouTube recording. Is it possible to avoid using GitHub Actions workflows, or is it mandatory requirement? So it is not. It is not a mandatory requirement. The Actions workflows, which is there for deployment, is just for example. It's a sample. So you can integrate with it in your GitHub repository, or you don't have to. It is manually created it or manually run. And the idea behind that is we provide it will be used for our own advantage, because we test it test the deployment like almost every day, 3-4 times most likely. That will advantage is that we can schedule them to be deployed, say when we are not we are away from our desks, for example. And also it will offer as a template for someone who wants to integrate with say Azure DevOps or any other DevOps. They have similar tools. Yeah. Yep. So, Suvajit, you want to take the next call for action?
Yep. Mm, For some reason, I hear things in a lag and broken. Do you
Okay.
still hear my voice clear?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. I mean, it was a bit broken towards the end of your last session, but now it's fine.
Okay. Right. So, yeah, now comes the most important part for any open source thing is basically invitation. So invitation for everyone who wants to be involved with the project. Uh, and basically what we want is we want you to be involved with this project. We want you to contribute in all means that you can. It may be from testing Hyperledger Bevel, creating bugs, creating issues, whatever you find, asking questions on Discord, and most welcome. If you can do a code contribution, that would be the best thing. But everything from documentation to issue creation, everything is kind of gladly welcomed. So how you can kind of get involved through us is by basically joining the various calls that we have so that you understand how the project is moving. And some of these calls that you see are done in regular basis. We have the bi-weekly sprint planning calls where we have open calls to discuss how the sprint is kind of different issues are picked for the sprint. Basically, sprint we do in a Scrum way. So we have the Scrum calls as well, and then we have the planning for that whole Scrum basically. We have roadmap grooming call, uh, where this calls we do once every PI, which is around 3 months time frame, where we kind of look into our product backlog. We discuss, we see how the community wants to kind of have different suggestions or not, and then we create issues and we create roadmap on the call itself. And then we have the regular release and PI demos. So you can join all of them. And we also have the workshops that we do. We'll soon be planning one. For the roadmap grooming call, we have one coming on the 9th Feb. And then we also have one demo coming up on 1st Feb, where we'll be doing a demo on various features that we have been working for past release, which is basically release 1.0. We'll be talking about. We'll be doing hands-on and showing some of the features that we have worked and developed on.
Yeah,
Right.
and to add to that, I think the workshop there are a Bevel. The operator fabric workshops that has already been planned for February. So we will do the whole as we discuss as the release 1.0 towards the end of February in that case for Bevel, where you will be I'll be showing, or I me or Suvajit will be showing the how to deploy using just the Helm commands, as we discussed in this as a major feature, and without using Flux and without using Vault, for example, for Besu specifically, because the other ones are yet to be done. Yeah, and to
Right.
like you can it's I mean, I know there are a lot of questions here like this, and there have been a lot of questions on the Discord as well, but yeah, it is with the direction of this project. It's an open source project. The direction of the project will be in your hands actually. That where you want the project to be going. I mean, we are a small team and we can provide some direction, but we cannot control the whole thing totally, right? So that's where it is that you, if you get more involved, it will fit or it will be updated to be fit your purpose.
Right. I mean, from the day one, since we open sourced, we have been kind of very flexible and adaptive to different things that are required by the community. So, yep. And with that, time for questions. Just feel free to ask us anything that you want.
Yeah, any other questions, or if I have not answered the questions, we have not answered the questions that has already been asked, is it that's you can say that, you know, any other clarifications also is fine. Okay, that's no more questions on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions there.
Right. I think in that case, it's all right. This was supposed to be a short call because it's a more like a project update. Of course, the workshops are longer, and we'll have the workshops planned soon enough. I'll talk to you, David, on that. And yeah, thanks everyone for attending, and thanks for your. I think most of you already use Bevel. So thanks for your usage, and yeah, continuous questions as well on Discord.
Yeah, thanks to you too. And I'm glad to hear you're thinking of a workshop. Yeah, happy to plan that with you whenever you want to talk more.
Yep. That's all. Thank you, and have a good evening, morning, wherever you are.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.